Hello, Petal. How you doing? How's it going? How's everything? It's been a bit hectic over here, with one thing and another. Bit of recording, bit of live, you know how it goes. So, apologies for such long absence. I thought I was over those for this year, but you know how it is, But, really positive news is the decorating's nearly all done in the bedroom, which is awesome, which is where I do most of my recording because it's the quietest place in the house. I just got the cove-in to do. And actually, I was talking to a friend of mine who's in on the east coast, Virginia Beach, and they gave the name of cove-in something completely different, and I was like, I wish I could remember what it was, but it's basically the polystyrene stuff, or plaster, depending how posh you are, that you put between the ceiling and the wall, and it gives it a nice finish, you know. But I did want to take down all the wallpaper on the ceiling because it's a textured ceiling, and I hate textured ceilings with a passion. And they sent me a picture of their ceiling, which, to be perfectly fair, right, they've got a house that it's not been decorated since the 70s, but it still looks immaculate, so well looked after, right? Absolutely, it is of the time, but it's so well looked after. And the ceiling, they had a textured ceiling, and no word of a lie, it looked like either a Walls Viennetta or Mr. Whippy. As much as I hate textured ceilings, this was a work of art. Not the usual sort of like, oh, circle, 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 circle. No, or stipple, stipple, stipple. No. This was just like beyond explanation how nice this was. It was gorgeous. But yes, so it's been a crazy few weeks. I hope you're all doing well. Special love to Warren and Mary Lou. Hope they're doing okay, especially because I understand it's been a bit rough with being poorly. It's that time of year, so if anybody's having struggles with or, you know, that particular thing that's been going around since 2020. I myself, I've been struggling with my voice an awful lot and just being wiped out. So apologies for that, but it does feel okay right now. I've got my honey tea, and I've got my buttermint honey tea, which is lovely, and I got my cup of tea, and I got my water. So I should be able to get through at least one chapter. I really should give you 2 or 3, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, it's that time of year, so everything's slowing down now. It's been a crazy few weeks, as I said, but now it's going to get more lively, you know, in a way that I could do more things at home. Yeah, and I'm getting a new hoodie. I've got a new hoodie on order. It's Day of the Deadpool, so it's like Deadpool doing the heart and everything, but it's like Day of the Dead style. Gorgeous, so nice. I can't wait, because I've got my other one, like Dark Side hoodie, which is like the North Face, but it's on Dark Side, which I absolutely love. But of course I don't want to wear, like, it's that time of year where you get your new hoodies, don't you? You've got your old coats out, you bring them out, and they're all sort of like, you know, dusted off and head out and everything. But the hoodies is, especially when they're 2 sizes too big, you know, just snuggle up in the hoodie. And the slankets come out, that's downstairs, and I got my blankets out, and yeah, so just rock and roll me. So this time of year, what is, like, as in indoors, obviously we like going outdoors, wrapping up warm, and sort of like being in the fresh air and going back inside really quickly. But like, what is this time of year? What do you really enjoy? Is it like kind of the seasonal markets coming out? Is it the weather more? Is it like things that are around, like seasonal foods and stuff like that? Now, I know I'm getting on for time now for this prologue sort of thing, but one of my favourite things this time of year was actually a memory from being like, I think I was about 10 or 11, and it's a sort of thing where you're sent out in the shop to get something. The shop's like 10 minutes away or whatever, and it's dark and the lights are coming on, and it's like dark, like sort of like 5:30 in the evening, and it's actually nighttime looking, you know. And then you kind of like, you go down like your road, and it's a little bit dark there, and then it kind of like goes to the sort of like where there's little tiny mall of shops, like just, well, there was a dry cleaners, a Chinese, an off license, which used to be called the Lingo Longa Sweet Shop, but then it was Unwin's off license. And then you had Burbage's, which was the sort of like the mini mart sort of thing. They're tiny, just like literally all these 4 shops just were about 100 yards, right? But what I remember most of all, and we were talking about this the other day, but it was when the Box of Secrets was coming out for seasonal sort of like showings on TV, and I had to go down to the shop first before I'd be allowed to watch the Box of Secrets on TV, and I like put my coat on, and then I kind of like went down to the shop just to kind of get a couple of bits and bobs. But I remember like coming out, and the air was like biting cold, like it was just that beautiful sort of winter air, that nighttime winter air. It's like kind of like the one that you get here, sort of like very early in the morning, the frost and the stone and the coal here in the mornings. It's just such an incredible smell. But this was like, again, it was that sort of thing. You just pop down the shop, and although it was biting cold, the thing was greeting you with all the lights, you know, from all the shops and everything. So pretty. It was a bit early for all the Christmas decorations and everything, but everything was lit up and it was cold, and it was just nice. It was just nice, you know, just like hurry down to the shops and then hurry back again, you know. Everybody stays indoors and they're warm, and you've got to go down to the bloody shop. I digress. It's 6 minutes. This has gone on far too long this morning. Right, this afternoon even. Ugh. Let's get on with this, shall we? Thank you for indulging me and listening, as ever. If you can hit the subscribe, like, share, hit notifications bell and all that sort of thing that they normally think you should say. I'm not good at saying that sort of stuff, so I just want to read this story. Oh, by the way, DC Farmer, amazing writer. I've been really getting into them at the moment. They're very much like Tom Holt, but in a different way, in a completely different way. Seriously, give it a go. Very, very funny indeed. Now then, we shall get on with Odds and Gods by our beloved Mr. Tom Holt, and thank you for indulging me. I appreciate you. I love you. Big kisses. Please let me know all about everything that's gone on with you. Thank you. And I will be trying a different sound decibels, so if it does sound a bit weird, let me know straight away and we'll change it over. But I'm going to try and do it a bit louder. We're going to do it at 14 instead of a 22 and see if that works. I digress. Odds and Gods, Chapter 6. Love, according to the songwriters, is the sweetest thing. But tea, as made by the great god Pan, must come a pretty close second. It's just as well that Pan is immortal, because if he were ever to die, several third-world countries whose economies depend in whole or in part on the cultivation of sugarcane are likely to fall on hard times. Have another biscuit, said Pan with his mouth full. Osiris shook his head.
Too full of cake,
he explained.
Couldn't eat another thing.
To the gods, Pan replied, helping himself.
All things are possible. All right then, I like these little ones with the coconut on top.
All living things yearn for their own kind, and it had been a long time since Pan had spent any time with a fellow god. As far as Osiris was concerned, he had several thousand years unhealthy eating to catch up on. So many donuts, so little time.
Well then,
Pan leaned back in his chair and nibbled the chocolate off a mini Swiss roll. Now it is no... Oh. It's been so long, but those mini Swiss rolls with the raspberry jam in, they had the raspberry jam and the cream in, and the dark chocolate ones. Ha ha ha.
So what have you been up to all this time? Nothing. Nothing at all.
Osiris nodded.
The first 600 years after I retired, I just had a bloody good rest. After that I found I'd got out of the habit of doing things. My own fault, really. Institutionalized.
Osiris let his eye wander around the room. His reactions were mixed. On the one hand, he thought, the very idea of an immortal god, one of us, being afforded so little respect by mortals that he could only afford a bed-sitting room over a chemist's shop in a suburban high street, was so infamous that it made his palms itch for a thunderbolt. On the other hand, it was a damn sight bigger than his gloomy little kennel at Sunnyvoyde, and he owned the horrible place, remember? And it was quite plain from the most cursory inspection that Pan didn't have little chits of teenage girls in white binnies barging in whenever they felt like it, moving his possessions about and confiscating his digestive biscuits. True, there was about 1,000 years' arrears of washing up in the sink, but the price of liberty is eternal housekeeping. He wrenched his mind back to the subject under discussion.
I suppose so, yes, he said wistfully. To begin with, you think, hey, this is the life, 5 meals a day brought to your room by beautiful young girls. Then you realize that for the last 1,000 years you've noticed the food but not the girls. Then you start to wonder what's happening to you. Yeah.
Pan nodded, but in his mind's eye he could picture his compact, thoroughly modern, utterly squalid kitchen. He had a perfectly good dishwasher, but it was a while since he'd actually seen it, because of all the dirty plates piled up on every available surface.
Mind you, 5 meals you haven't had to cook for yourself. It's definitely got something going for it. Not much, though.
Osiris shifted slightly in his wheelchair, which seemed to have shrunk.
How come you never retired? Couldn't afford to,
Pan replied.
Purely and simply a question of money. Really? Really. I look back now and I say to myself, if only I'd had the good sense to take out a personal pension plan back in the 3rd century BC, I wouldn't still be having to get out of bed at 6:30 every morning to go to work. Mind you, it's always the way. When you're at that age, you think you're going to live forever. Or more to the point, you think you aren't going to live forever, so why bother? Were you, planning to stay long?
Osiris nodded.
Depends on how long it takes. How long what takes? For me to outlive my godson?
Osiris replied.
The way I see it, all I've got to do is stay out of the way of him and his precious doctors until they kick the bucket. And in our time scale, that just gives us time for a quick game of poker before I've got to be getting back. Poker? It was only a suggestion. If you'd rather play snakes and ladders, or...
Inside his soul, Pan grinned. The ability to cause sudden panic isn't the world's most useful skill. It's not like plumbing or carpet laying, the sort of thing that'll always keep the wolves strictly confined to the downstairs rooms, but it surely gives you the edge when playing poker.
You're not proposing, he said coyly, that we play for money, are you? Money?
Osiris looked at him.
I didn't know you could. I've heard that it's possible. Gosh, I suppose you sort of bet on what's going to win each hand. I suppose so. Want to give it a try? Why not? Do you know how we go about it? I expect we'll pick it up as we go along.
3 hours later, Pan came to the conclusion that maybe he'd been a trifle injudicious, given that he was immortal and assuming that he managed to continue doing these lucrative voiceovers he'd just broken into right up until the scheduled description of the Earth. He'd probably be able to pay Osiris back eventually, provided he didn't get charged interest and went easy on the food and electricity.
You've played this before,
he said.
I learned recently, Osiris replied. About 6 months ago. One of the nurses at the home was a boyfriend who's a lorry driver. Apparently they spend a lot of time in Transport Cafe playing cards. We usually have a game or two every Friday evening while he's waiting for her shift to end. I see. Do you think your godson's likely to be dead yet?
Osiris glanced at his watch.
I doubt it, he said. There's this other game he's taught me if you'd like to try something else. I'm not quite sure of the rules, but... No, thanks.
Oh, Osiris shrugged.
Well, in that case, we'd better settle up. I'd rather have cash if it's all the same to you.
Pan winced.
To be absolutely frank with you, he said, I'm just the teeniest bit strapped for cash at the moment. Would you mind if I, owed it to you, just for a week or so? You understand.
Osiris smiled pleasantly.
I can do better than that, he said. You do me a small favour, and we'll call it quits. How does that sound?
There was a deafening crash, and the air was suddenly full of broken glass. All over the building, alarms should have gone off. Hellfish and Deeb had security systems that projected into several as yet undiscovered dimensions. So sophisticated were they that bells rang and lights flashed on monitor screens if a hostile philosopher started postulating that lawyers might not exist in a perfect universe. But even the most elaborate setup won't work if someone has been round snipping vital wires and stuffing socks in the mechanism at strategic places.
Hi, said Julian, not looking up. Take a seat with you directly.
Kurt Lundqvist let go of the rope on which he just abseiled in, and with an easy movement drew an enormous handgun from a huge shoulder holster. He levelled it at Julian's heart and cleared his throat discreetly. 50 caliber Desert Eagle, said Julian, apparently to the 70-page lease open on his desk.
What's wrong with the trusty old Glock, then?
Lundqvist winced slightly.
My new assistant, he said. Goddamn woman will insist on tidying the place up. It'll turn up eventually.
Julian clicked his tongue sympathetically, drew a few squiggles on the page with a red felt tip, and closed the lace.
Good of you, he said inevitably, to drop in. I was just passing. Sure. Now then.
Julian leant back in his chair. It was the sort of chair that was designed to define its occupant, and it told you better than any words could that you were sitting on the wrong side of the desk, and steepled his fingers. Narrator's note.
Executive chairs. I've got a job for you, he said. So I'd heard. I think you're the right man for this job. Thanks. You come recommended. Glad to hear it.
Julian reached across the desktop and drew a file towards him.
Highly recommended.
He opened the file, flicked through a couple of pages and nodded.
You've been around a fair while, I see. Like, it was you who finally killed Dracula in 1876? Yup. And 1879, and 1902, and 1913. You can't keep a good man down. And 1927. But not since.
Lundqvist shrugged.
Actually, you can keep a good man down, just so long as you use a big enough stake. In this case, a telegraph pole. Cool. It worked.
He smiled faintly.
First time, anyhow. Though I hear they get some really bizarre wrong numbers in those parts even now. What is it you want done?
Julian shrugged and turned a few more pages.
Hey, he said. This one you did, a year or so back. That really was a bit out of the ordinary.
He tossed over a Polaroid of a stunted green shape, vaguely humanoid, but with a weird head and strange long fingers.
I thought he made it back to his own planet eventually. There was a film about it. Lots of kids with bicycles.
Lundqvist said nothing, but shook his head. Julian suddenly felt ever so slightly unnerved.
But he was kind of sweet, wasn't he? He said. So what? How did you find him exactly? I thought he was well hidden after the story broke. I tapped his phone. Figures.
Julian closed the file.
Well, I want you to think of this job as the culmination of your extremely impressive career. Afterwards, of course, you'll have to retire. You'll never be able to work again.
He paused and smiled.
Mind you, you'll never need to work again. The package I have in mind is extremely favourable. Look!
Lundqvist leaned forward and stared at him across the desk.
The only packages I know about go tick-tick. Cut to the chase, okay? Okay. Julian folded his arms. I've got a god needs taking for a ride. A god? I see. Any particular one? Osiris. You know him? By repute.
Lundqvist's eyes glowed.
Any reason or just general resentment about the fall of man? My business, said Julian quietly.
He picked up the pen and fiddled with the cap.
Let's say he's taking up space required for other purposes, and time too. Yeah.
Lundqvist stood up.
I ought to blow your fucking head off right now, he said.
In a curved and infinite universe, everything has to happen eventually, somewhere. Julian stared. For the very first time, he was at a loss for words.
Now listen to me,
Lundqvist hissed. He reached out a hand and gathered a palmful of Julian's tie.
2 points. 1. Gods are immortal. That makes them pretty damn difficult to kill. Not, he added with a hint of pride, impossible, but difficult, certainly. Not for you, surely. That's beside the point.
Lundqvist tightened his grip on the tie.
The second thing is, I don't kill gods. I'm the good guy, damn it. I'm on their side. I sort out the bad guys. That's what I do. Talking of which, the only thing standing between you and reincarnation under a flat stone is professional ethics.
Lundqvist grinned suddenly.
And I wouldn't rely on that too much. You'll be sorry.
Lundqvist's face was white with rage.
Hey, man, he growled. I'd have thought you'd have known. Threatening me is not wise. The last guy who threatened me is now an integral part of the Manhattan skyline. No threat intended. All I meant was, you don't take the job, you don't get paid a very large sum of money. I'd be really sorry if I missed out on a chance like that. Stuff your money, Lundqvist replied. I got principles, okay? Principles?
Julian raised an eyebrow.
Kurt, for God's sake, you're a multiple murderer. Isn't it just a bit late?
Julian found himself hovering in the air about 6 inches away from his seat, with the square foot of his shirt front twisted in Lundqvist's hand.
I got principles, he repeated. You touch a single hair on that god's head, and you'll wish you'd never been born. Or rather, he added with a disconcerting grin, you'll wish you had been born. In vain, it goes without saying, you copy. Save it for the customers, Kurt, replied Julian,
although he could have done with the air he used in doing so for other more urgent purposes.
How much? Name your own. Fuck you. Actually, I was thinking that money could be more appropriate. Still.
Julian hit the back of his chair like a squash ball, and his head slumped forwards onto the desk. A splash of blood from the cut in his forehead fell on the lease, fortuitously blotting out an unfavourable rent review clause he'd previously overlooked.
Am I to take that as a definite maybe? He asked.
For a moment, Julian was convinced Lundqvist was going to kill him. The gun reappeared from under his arm.
God,
Julian thought, as he stared down the endless black tunnel of the muzzle. After a hard day's work, that thing must smell awful. And there was a click as the hammer came back, but there was no bang, because Lundqvist was a professional, a high-class operator, and the golden rule of top specialists is no free samples. A moment later, there was only a space where Lundqvist had been, and the wind blowing intrusively through the smashed window.
Shit,
Julian mused aloud.
Ah, well, never mind.
He swiveled his chair round to the computer terminal on his desk, tapped a couple of keys and waited while the machine bleeped at him.
Ready?
Julian frowned.
Ready what? He said.
Sorry, ready, sir.
That's more like it. Right, do me a scan on the following work group.
He tapped again. The machine flickered, told him a lot of things he knew already about all rights being protected, and finally produced a column of names. The heading was International A to Z Compendium of Atheists.
Run-dun-dun! Ba-ba-ba! Ba-ba!
So, hey, okie dokie. So basically, Julian's after getting Osiris, so he's going to use Kurt Lundqvist to do so. Osiris and Panda, getting together, having being friends and all that sort of thing, and they're kind of like keeping each other company. Apologies for not doing the recap, because basically it's been a minute, and I do apologise for that. So what I'll do is I'll do a double recap on the next chapter. Yes. But as ever, my lovely beans, I know the weather's changing over and it's getting to that time of year where it gets a bit more challenging. So I probably will be doing my Christmas Day read-along again, or throughout that week I'll try and do some more read-alongs. I will try. Depends on being awake, generally. Being awake kind of helps, and voice and things. But I will do my very best to try and do a read-along over the Christmas season. Because remember we did it last year and I really enjoyed that. That was really nice. And it helps me to do my recording as well. So, especially because I'll be doing Grimm's Fairy Tales. That'll be nice. That will be nice. And doing some of these as well, hopefully. And other books that we've talked about. Like the Box of Secrets. Yeah! So I hope the sound on this one's okay. By all means, let me know. If it isn't, what we'll do is we'll take it down and then we'll redo the production and put it back up again, and then that should work it out. And in the next chapter I'll probably tell you my story about another reason why I haven't been about for the last week or so. I would have come back sooner if not for this particular thing, but I digress. Yes. So if you're too hot, drink lots of water, stay in the shade, keep cool. Ice cubes, If you're too cold, wrap up nice and warm and snug and have a hot drink. Have a nice hot cuppa. Make yourself a little human burrito and enjoy the warmth inside. But most of all, over everything else, take care, petal, and I'll see you soon.